Today I've got a pretty interesting disc to review for you guys today. This is a pretty new company created by Scott Stokely, aptly named Stokely Discs. Today we have the Stokely Discs Ren. I'm going to be putting it up against my Cosmic Fury, which is a Logic. This is kind of like my baby in my bag. It's my favorite disc. It's my go-to throwing putter for backhands, and I think it should pair up with this pretty well, especially because I've had it for a while, so it's a little bit more beat up. It should be a really good comparison to the Ren. Now this is a first run Strato Ren. Feel in the hand, pretty similar to the Logic in the sense that it's kind of a shallower putter and very similar profile as well, which makes me think they're gonna fly pretty similar. Interesting thing about the flight numbers on this thing is they're actually crowdsourced. So Scott sends out the discs to people before they have flight numbers and then has their review. You kind of go into deciding what the actual flight numbers for the discs are. So they should be pretty accurate based on what a bunch of people threw instead of a company just kind of making it up. So the flight numbers for this thing are 3 speed, 3.5 glide, minus 0.5 turn, and then a 1 fade. So like honestly really similar to a Logic, which is a 3.301. And honestly, once this thing gets a little bit more beat up, especially more of a base plastic one, I could almost say that those flight numbers are a bit more representative. It definitely has what feels like a little bit more than just a 3 glide. Logic goes really far, as a lot of throwing putters do. You know, if you throw Lunas, you can probably say the same thing, and it definitely can get a little bit of turn on it as well. So could very well be very similar. We're just gonna play some holes here, try them out against each other, see how they are. This is my first time throwing any Stokely discs. This is, like I said, the Strato first run. So I believe this is a base plastic. I think Thermo is their premium plastic. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So we're gonna go with the Logic first. I'm gonna play the whites here on this little tunnel shot. Great shot to start off here with a putter. Perfect, just put it on a little bit of hyzer, push it down. Should be easy to park it. This hole's right at 225, so perfect distance for this disc. Low and driven, slides up to the basket, absolutely parked. I will say we have a little bit of tailwind here, so we shouldn't get anything turning over. Should be about perfect. All right, first throw with the Ren. Try and do the same thing. Oh, held it a little bit left. Wow, it's actually pretty stable. All right, we'll go and scramble that real quick. I was expecting it to flip up a little more. Apologies if you hear any loud noises or beeps in the background. There's some construction going on back over towards hole 1's tee pad by the parking lot. Didn't realize they were gonna be doing that, but they're getting like a new building put in or something. So it's kind of loud. I'm gonna try and stay on holes that are not in that area. Okay, this is actually just not even playable. It's so in here. I mean, I guess I could, no. If you kick this far left, you're pretty much screwed. I could go over the top or something, but we'll just use that as a calibration hole, kind of learning the disc. It definitely has a little bit of stability to it, which I like. And we'll go tap in that Logic. Obviously the Logic I'm very familiar with. Can park this from the white just about every single time. The Ren though, pretty similar, pretty good stability too. All right, hole 3, we're gonna play the reds here actually. It's a little bit downhill once you get over this hill here, about 270, and we're into a headwind now. So you can play the right side hyzer, but I kind of want to see how the turnover feels. Got to just put under these branches, get a little bit of anhyzer on it, maybe some stability at the end to finish out. Headwind should keep us on a nice little angle here, but we should get a pretty good feel for the differences in like the turnover line for these discs, because I know for my Logic, I love throwing it on little forced turnovers that kind of just fade the whole, or just kind of glide right the whole way. And so the Ren might be able to do pretty much the same thing. Nice turnover, maybe a little low. Got a little, maybe nose down into the headwind there, pushed it down. Try and get this one a little bit more height. There we go. Oh yeah. Yeah, not too understable at all. I think that's even better. You know, a lot of discs, kind of base plastic putters like that, they don't have a ton of fade. If you throw them into a headwind on anhyzer, they can really get turned over into the wind. That held a beautiful line there. It even came out of my hand, not super clean, with a little bit of wobble, but it glided to the basket very, very nicely. The headwind didn't affect it too much. Yeah, Logic a little low here. Looks like we got to about circle's edge. Not bad at all. Ren went a little long past the basket. Looks like it's in a pretty good spot. Oh, big carry. That's a par for the Logic. Ren's at a pretty good spot. Just carried a little long, honestly. I was wondering if it was even gonna get there. Very nice. Okay, hole 4 from the Reds as well, 205, very easy hole. I kind of want to see just on a little 200-foot shot, little backhand up shot. It's basically what this is. They'll be throwing this disc on this kind of shot all the time. I want to see how they glide in comparison to each other with a little bit of airspace, just on a nice little hyzer, playing into the hill, see how the ground play looks for them both as well. I think they'll be very similar, kind of be indistinguishable. Try and throw them pretty much just right of target with a little bit of hyzer and get it to glide in. Wind is a little left to right, just pushed it all the way up the hill, didn't let it fade back. We'll see. I'll throw the same angle, honestly. I didn't read the wind very well there, but I think in no wind it would have had that fade at the end. Kind of got pushing the disc out to the right and held it out a little longer, pushed pretty long. We'll see if this bites back into the wind a little more or kind of gets pushed out in the same way. I pulled that right as well, but it seems like it has similar tendencies. Definitely it doesn't fade into a crosswind like maybe something more overstable would, but it definitely doesn't turn over either. So if you're aiming at something, especially with a left to right wind like this, both of these you pretty much want to go straight at it. So I mean, these are both evidently very straight flying putters. 205 uphill, and I went 60 long maybe. I barely threw those, and they still wanted to climb the hill and go this far. Honestly, so far that I probably can't even make these putts. Yeah, I mean, definitely not the kind of disc you want to throw when you're trying to pinpoint accuracy from that range. You kind of want something a little more stable, like a zone, but they both just glide for so long with almost zero effort. I threw those what felt like pretty light. Like if I threw my zone, I'd probably come up short, but they went both, climbed that hill and just kept going. So very glidey, very good. Jumping ahead to hole 6 here, playing the whites, 265. So this is also maybe a tiny bit uphill, but not as much as the last hole. So if we throw it about the same, should get pretty much to the pin. If not, push a little bit long. Got kind of a gap hit here. You want to be finishing left to right. So typically I'll be throwing more of a forehand. We have a hill to kind of climb over at the end of the flight, but a low ceiling. You can kind of push out to the left a little bit higher there with fewer branches in the way. We're back in the headwind though, so we should be able to pop these on a little bit of hyzer and get them to push up and ride the whole way there. We'll see how they both kind of push into a headwind through the gap on hyzer, see how they fly. I know the Logic's definitely gonna flip up a little bit and make it to the basket. I'm curious if the Ren will flip up as well, or if it's gonna be more right on that hyzer and push to the left side of the green. Oh, it's good. Oh! All right, so I thought I was gonna hit those branches. Push a little bit left, long of the basket. So headwind, even the Logic didn't really do that much. I gave it hyzer, a little bit of height, just kind of pushed left the whole way through. We'll try to do the same thing with the Ren, see if there's any difference. Oh, maybe just a touch less stability, if anything, but like so similar, it's almost indistinguishable. I think I pushed it a little bit further right and it landed a little bit further right. So both of them have a putt though, very, very similar. I mean, Ren's pin high, Logic's a little bit pushed out to the left. I think I threw the Logic a little higher, kind of pushed through those leaves. I mean, they're pretty much flying the same. The only difference between the two of them is how I threw them. Oh, how are you leaving that short? Roll. The Ren is money though. Got about a 12-footer. Definitely threw it a little better, but these are feeling very similar, you know? I'm throwing them both on very similar lines and they're doing very similar things. Kind of hard to distinguish between the two of them. I will say, in terms of feel, because I didn't talk about it that much, this Stratoplastic it's got that nice, like kind of tacky, rubbery feel that some base plastics have that I really like. And it's kind of reminiscent of like older KC plastic, honestly. It's not super hard, it's got a little bit of give to it, but it's very nice grip. And even with getting some dirt on it, I still feel like it has a pretty good feel in my hand. I'd be curious to try out a premium plastic one, that thermoplastic. Maybe it'll be similar to my Logic in terms of feel. All right, we've been throwing a lot of pretty simple shots here. We'll step the stakes up a little bit here. We're gonna play the Island hole 7 from the blues. It's 320, a little bit uphill. Minimal wind, should be able to get the disc there, but it's kind of a crush, especially with the uphill and to make the Island. with just a putter. We'll see which one we can get closer. We'll see which one even makes the island if we do. And yeah, this isn't the disc I would throw from this shot, but I want to try and put a little bit of power on it. I think we have a little bit of a left to right cross tailwind, so should help our discs kind of fade into the wind and maybe hold up a little bit. It might knock them down. Put some power on it and see how it goes. Let's start with the Logic. Try to stick this island. Oh, it's right on line. I've never actually thrown that shot with the no wind before. It's usually kind of windy here and I throw something faster and overstable. It might have that little bush in the way, but that absolutely parked it, I'm pretty sure. Slid right up into the dirt under the basket. We'll try to do the same thing with the Wren. Oh, I held it a little left. Man, that has some stability to it. I think I just missed the island. I threw that definitely worse. I'll put that on me. But I think it has like a little bit of sneaky stability to it, which might make it a little different than my Logic. But to be fair, the Logic's been in my bag for like 6 months plus now, maybe a year. So it's probably, honestly, pretty similar out of the box. Both fly really nice. I really love these shallow profile, like shallow rim putters. You can just give them a lot of power and they'll just glide straight pretty much into any conditions. And as you can see there with the Logic, pushed all the way 320 to the basket. And the Wren I threw a little bit poorly, but it still got some pretty good glide, made it comfortably onto the island, just hyzered out a little bit more than I expected. I mean, almost pin high, barely off the island. It might be like a plastic thing. It's a different plastic feel between the two discs. Maybe just a comfortability thing. I think I fluffed it a little bit, maybe afraid of, you know, overcooking it too much, but I don't think that was gonna be a problem at all. It finished left pretty well. I think I could have put some good power on that and got it to glide pretty well. We'll see how this thing putts though. The Logic up there is parked, so we'll try and putt the Wren in from the hazard here to save par. I don't know, I've tried putting with the Logic before and it's similar to that. Sometimes a little bit too glidey for me. And the shallow rim, which I thought I would like, I've kind of gone back to P2s recently because I like the deeper putters, but this could be good, we'll see. Oh, that's pretty nice. That's a pretty good putting putter. Plastic feels good too. It's not super warm, so, you know, as I've found recently with the Flex 2, which this Strato plastic feels a bit more like, could end up being too tacky once it gets real warm. Once you get up into like the 70, 80 degrees Fahrenheit, might feel maybe a bit too tacky, but right now it feels really good and it felt good release on my hand with the putt there. It's hard to say though, it's about 50 degrees right now, so a bit chillier than what you're gonna get in the summer. I imagine this might feel a little different, but if this is something that Scott wants to use as a putting putter, I would love to see more of a firm sort of Flex 3 type plastic, KC Pro type plastic, more of a harder shell for a putting putter, or just in general for the warmer months. Got a couple more holes we can play here with these backhand shots. So far, honestly loving the Wren as much as I love the Logic. Pretty much loving the Wren just as much. Probably not gonna make it in the bag just because I'm so comfortable with the Logic, but it feels like it's a pretty good clone. I don't know if I want to call it a clone because it is a little bit different, but very similar, and I don't think a lot of companies are making a disc like this. It took me a while to find the Logic because it's a bit unique, and I'll explain that a bit towards the end of the video when I start to go over my thoughts on it. Anyway, right here, of course, I love to go the forehand here because it's wide open on the left to swing in, but we have this little low ceiling you can push out to the right, hyzer in, some late little trees. Of course, we're at hole 8 whites, 285, a little bit downhill. Definitely putter shot is viable here. You want to push right a little bit around those last 3 little trees that you can see that are right in the way of the basket there. But if you throw it right, get past those trees, you can put it up pretty close. So we'll see how this goes. Go Logic first. And I'll try not to make the mistake with the Wren I did on the last hole. I'm gonna give it some power, maybe a little bit of flex even, just put it flat and see if it holds that stability towards the end of the flight, because we've seen it turns over pretty well, but every time I've tried to throw it on more of a straight line, I think I've given it a bit more hyzer and been afraid to put power on it. So we're gonna test the power a little more on this hole. So yeah, see, I put it out a little right, holds that turn the whole way. I wanna see if the Wren does the same thing, or if it kind of just fights out at the end a little bit, you know what I mean? So we'll put it out kind of flat and straight, push into the right, see if it fades back. We also have right to left wind, so that could help it towards the end of the flight. Yeah, look at that. It totally fades. Yeah, that didn't, I think I threw those on very similar lines. Logic, got up pretty much that same spot, right? Pushed it up towards those branches. It gets a little scary, but you know it's gonna be pushing right. The Logic got to that point and then kept coasting right. The Ren got up there and then just kind of wanted to start fading out. So I think it is a little bit more stable. You know, like I said, it's newer, so that could be a difference. I think if you take a brand new Logic, it'll probably fly a bit more similar to what I just threw, but it's definitely not one of those discs where the one fade is not really true. Like, it really does like to fade out towards the end of the flight. It has maybe a little bit of flip up to push, but it definitely fades out at the end of the flight. It's not one of those, you know, like a Luna that's supposed to have a 3 fade, but it flips over on you anyways. The Ren is a 1 fade, and I would say it feels a little more stable than a Luna, honestly, to me. Yeah, look at this. Logic had that nice coast to the right. Once again, pretty much exactly the same distance, just kind of faded out differently. Now look at this. First of all, the wind, while kind of a crosswind, it's pushing this way, not directly right to left from the T-pad. It's a bit more of a headwind than I realized. So the Logic kind of turned over where I'd probably expect it to ride straight and finish out at the end, probably because of the headwind. I threw the Ren on a pretty similar line. It pushed up first, but it didn't want to turn over into that headwind. It had that integrity to fade out. So very nice. I think when it beats up, it'll be very similar to the Logic, but it's got that stability that you definitely want with this kind of putter. Oh, too high. That was such a good release though. How about the Ren? Oh, that was money. It's a good putting putter. It honestly is. All right, final hole here. This is hole 9 from the Blues. I think it says 355 on the T-pad. Got a gap hit early. It opens up towards the end. You have an OB walking path the whole left way down the fairway, and it closes in on the basket at the very end. Now, it is 355 and I am throwing a putter, and this is actually, my Logic is my throw on this shot if I'm not going big forehand. Because of how downhill it is, the putter can just glide the whole way there. We have a little bit of headwind, so it might be tough getting there, but I think this hole is a very good test, therefore a very good one to end on, because you want to push straight the whole way. You don't want to turn over because you want to have a putt, but you also don't want to have that big fade at the end and go right into the OB. You'll probably have a par putt if you make it all the way down to the bottom because it's right next to the basket, but you want to have something that's going to push flat, not fade out too far at the end, and then have that nice mellow finish at the end. I know the Logic can do it. We'll see if the Ren can do the same. Maybe if that stability pushes it into the OB a little more. I think with this headwind, it'll be pretty good. I'm gonna put them on hyzer for both of them, push them down there, get them to pick up and ride, and hopefully just sit at the very end, right next to the basket. That's all assuming I can throw the disc well. Oh, I turned that over too much. And there you can see why you don't wanna, yeah, we're about 200 feet short now. We'll try the Ren here, try to throw a little better. Tough with this headwind here, but gotta trust that hyzer release. Oh, that was so good. We're gonna throw it again. First time whacking a tree with this thing, and it is base plastic. And look at that. Definitely knocked that flight plate down a little bit. Parting line's definitely a little bit lower. That's how it's gonna get understable. I'll try and bend that part back a little bit so it flies how it was. But already, you can see how this base plastic definitely gonna start to be understable the more time you hit some trees. Look at that. Yeah, definitely, definitely maybe want to throw a mid-range into this headwind. However, it didn't turn over like the Logic, and I think I threw them both on pretty similar lines, so I think it is pretty solidly overstable, like pretty good. I think a couple more tree hits like that and we'll see, but let's go clean those up and I'll give my final thoughts. Pretty impressed with this disc. I think a lot of people should pick it up. Well, it looks like both of these discs suffered similar fates. Just couldn't go very far into a headwind. I guess 350 into a headwind with a putter, maybe not super doable. It's a tailwind now, it just switched on me. Anyway, should be able to get up and down pretty easily. Glide. Whoa! The wind did some stuff there. And a pitch up with the Ren as well. Sit down. Easy peasy. All right, so the Stokely Discs Ren, despite being a base plastic putter, I would say the flight numbers are very accurate. So we can thank sort of the crowdsourced flight number selection that Scott Stokely decided to do to give us some accurate flight numbers. And we can boo Discraft and their Luna for its fake flight numbers and hope more companies can start doing this and even update their old flight numbers, which we've seen some companies do actually. I think this is a putter profile a type of throwing putter that not enough companies are making, and I'm really happy that Scott Stokely, one of his early molds, is going to be a disc just like this. I've seen so many putters that are too understable, too overstable, too deep, have a bead. I love this beadless, shallow throwing putter. It's super reliable. It feels really good in your hand, especially if you don't have huge hands. I have pretty small hands. It's just so nice and reliable, and it took me so long to find a disc like the Logic that fit that slot. And so I'm really happy that there's more companies making an effort to make a disc like this that can fill that slot. So if you're looking for something like this that you really like, maybe you don't like the Discmania plastic, maybe this is just a little bit cheaper. It was a pretty good price. It feels really good. If you like that more of a base plastic feel as well, this Strato plastic is super, super nice and flies really good. And if you want something that maybe it's a base plastic, but you want to have a little bit more stability, this is honestly a fantastic disc. If you want to get one, go to otbdisc.com. You can use my code, which I believe is still chili, but it might be updating pretty soon because chili season is making its way out pretty soon.
Hey, so actually the new code that we're going to be using as of this video going live is going to be Sunshine. So if you want free shipping at checkout for otbdisc.com, use code Sunshine.
Anyway, yeah, go get yourself one of these. And I think Scott Stokely hit a home run with this disc. I want to try some more out from his lineup for sure, but so far this Wren is amazing. Get one if you're even thinking about it at all and support him because, like I said, this is a home run. Great disc. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.